What's up, Flavor Peeps? It's your boy Marlon. We're indoors today making brisket. It's a little chilly outside in different parts of the country, so they ain't got time to be out there, 12 hours, 18 hours smoking a brisket. So we're gonna bring it inside and do this thing in the oven. Still gonna be tender, still gonna be flavorful, still gonna have that nice dark bark that you're accustomed to if you had brisket in Texas off the grill on that smoker. We're gonna do it with big flavor. I got some Caribbean vibes I'm gonna add to the mix, but we're gonna braise this bad boy in beer for that tenderness, that butter silk texture. If you stick around, I'll show you how to get that bark too. We're gonna have fun with this one. Let's get to cooking. All right. You know me, we're gonna level the flavor up every way we can. One of the ways we're gonna do this is starting with onions. We're gonna top the brisket with yassa onions, which is a Senegalese dish or technique. So instead of using just regular, plain onions, we're gonna marinate these with a bunch of different ingredients, starting with some garlic, some Dijon mustard, some spices, which you can get in the description, as well as peppers, and some citrus. So this is going to be a really flavorful topping for the brisket. The key with this, and this is where all your prep is going to be, is to cut these in pretty thin slices. We're going to let these cook on top of the brisket and some inside the braised liquid. We're not going to saute them ahead of time, which is customary for a lot of braised brisket recipes. So literally we're going to season the top and just kind of let them melt on top, right? But the key is marinating these overnight in that sauce that I use. For a brisket, I don't have a whole brisket. There are two different cuts. I'm using the flat top. You can use a point, whichever you choose. But I want to cook it for one, so I got about a 4-pound brisket that I'm going to use, and this will fit nice and easy into my Dutch oven pot, which is what I'm working with, right? So I'm seasoning these with salt, pepper, paprika, and allspice. A little Caribbean all-purpose seasoning is kind of what I think about it. And for that crust, I'm going to use some browning, which is basically going to give that dark color. But also when I brown the outside, it's going to help build that crust on the brisket to mimic what you would get if you were smoking this outside, low and slow Texas style like we do. But I got a nice little mix of the browning that's going to go on my brisket, and I'm going to let that marinate, for a couple hours. Assuming you have time, you can do the same. Then I'm going to give it some nice browning on both sides. So I'm putting this in a hot pan. Don't be scared of it. You want a nice crust to form from a texture standpoint. So I'm going to let this cook about 3 to 4 minutes per side at medium heat. Building that crust and also kind of leaving some of that flavor in the bottom of the pan, which I'll take care of later. Another key flavor step will be deglazing the pan later. So right, you see the color on there from the browning. You see the bark is starting to form, from the frying, and so I'm feeling like really good about where things stand right now. So I'm going to take it off the heat, and then I'm going to start to work on the rest of the dish. And so there's a lot at the bottom of that pan from that browning sauce, and so I'm going to deglaze with a mix of beef stock. And then I'm going to come in nice and correct with beer. For my beer, I'm using stout. I want something dark and heavy and thick. It's wintertime, right? That's the vibe, baby. So that's what we're working with. So you see me scrubbing the bottom of the pan. I'm using the acid from the beer to release those brown bits from the bottom of the pan that's thawing into the braising liquid to add even more flavor. And so my key ingredients, I'm going to add some brown sugar, like that beer is pretty bitter, and so brown sugar, which is common, rub for brisket, I'm adding it here to kind of balance things out. And then I have what's called cassareep, which is used to make pepper pot in the Caribbean, particularly in Guyana. If you don't have cassareep, you can use kind of a combination of molasses and Worcestershire sauce to mimic that flavor. But I highly recommend ordering some online if you don't have access to it. It really just makes this dish stand out. But again, molasses and that Worcestershire sauce will get the job done in a pinch. And so that's really like the work in itself before we, add the onions. But this is the braising liquid. I did add a couple of bay leaves in there for kind of get that herbal, grassy kind of vibe to the dish. But here are my onions, right? And like I mentioned before, I want to put the bulk of these directly on top of the brisket and let them just kind of cook down, flavor the brisket from above. But I'm also going to put some on the side in the braising liquid. And so you're going to get both that effect, right? You get that braised onion taste with the beer and the broth, and then you get that yassa Senegalese vibe with that mustard, citrusy onions on top that doesn't get touched by the braise, right? And so this is going to be delicious. You're going to be able to enjoy both the brisket, and if you just want to even just like enjoy the onions by themselves, I mean, there's so much flavor there that I think you could do that, right? But I just want you to have like both those different experiences. You have to check the brisket, as you cook. One, you want to remove that scotch bonnet pepper because you don't want it to break down into the dish because it'll become like overly spicy, and that's not really what you're looking for. But you give it that test, the push down test with the tongs to see how done it is. And if it pulls away, pretty easily, you should feel pretty good about it. Know you're in good shape. You can see the brisket is pretty tender. I can kind of pull without cutting. That's tender, baby, and we're good to go. And so now it's really just thinking about how you're gonna serve this, right? And if you want this broth to be a little more thicker, you can remove the brisket, cook it down into more of a gravy consistency. There's a lot of flavor there, so hey, I wouldn't be above it. I'm telling you, I've done it before, and if you got some bread on hand, you can definitely do some real sopping with that to make this even more enjoyable. But like for me, I'm gonna take this out of the braise and I'm gonna slice it. You wanna make sure when you're cutting it, you're cutting brisket against the grain to maximize that tenderness that you created through the cooking process. I'm serving mine over just plain white rice. You can easily do this with mashed potatoes, mashed sweet potatoes, whatever your vibe is that you're working on. But I like to enjoy it like this. I put some of those onions on the side because I want to enjoy the onions both ways. The onions from the braising liquid, and then the onions that are more traditional yassa, untouched by the braise, sitting on top of the onions. That tanginess that really works to balance against the richness of that brisket. And that's what we're working with. So if you like this dish, you know what to do. But for right now, I'm just gonna enjoy it as much as I can because we're working with some really, really good tender brisket with a nice bark, nice color, nice flavor. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Gotta get the track. This song that pairs with this dish, Send It On by D'Angelo. Smooth, sexy. You know how D'Angelo do it. Rest in peace to my brother. But I think you're gonna dig this dish. This is grown folks meal, grown folks music. All right, so I ain't gonna lie. I had a lot of fun with this one. This one came out the way I wanted it. Love the color. I love the flavor. It's rich. And it's just got a lot of fun, interesting vibe to it with the molasses kind of vibe that comes from the cassareep. But if you like this dish, as always, hit that red subscribe button and get those updates, weekly when I post new content right to your inbox. Thanks for vibing with me. Peace out.